Hope you are well. We are going to talk about the process of moving from being in a career to being at home with your kids, or even if you don't yet have kids, what that looks like in terms of the transition, some of the myths that are out there, and the raw facts, because friends don't let friends believe a lie. That's just how we roll it. So, if we've not yet met, hey, my name is Lydia. I am all about empowering women to show up in the fullness of their calling and do so unapologetically. And we're going to be talking about something that many individuals don't realize, whether they are, in fact, the ones who are doing that transition from being in a workplace or having their own independent business to functioning and focusing on home and family, or they're a sister to someone who's doing that, or they're a mother or a father to someone who's making that transition. As women, we have a whole lot of expectations that are unspoken, and so I'm going to start talking about them. So let's talk about the first myth. Okay, first one that's out there is that being a stay-at-home mom is easy. And I know that some of you who are stay-at-home moms right now who are watching this are probably chuckling or sarcastically laughing or going, "Pah," right? Because the truth of the matter is, making the choice to be at home full time is not easy. It's not easy from the standpoint of, if you were in a career that you loved, you're now moving away from that and choosing to focus on your family in this season. It's not easy if it means that you are now choosing to take away time from what you were doing previously to now be completely present with your family in this season. It is a tough decision. I remember when I made that decision to choose to care for my family in that full time role, it felt a bit like, okay, this is not me choosing to leave a career to go off back to school and go to graduate school and do something amazing. This is me choosing to basically be at home. And it wasn't until years later that I recognized just how significant it is to have someone who is functioning as the watchwoman, the watchman on the walls, if you will, someone who was there to ensure that the foundation, the core of our family, even though at the time it was just my husband and I, that it's important to have that foundation and that core there to prepare the way for what comes next. Okay. So being a stay at home mom is not an easy choice. And it's not necessarily easy in the sense that it's a whole new set of rules. Okay, that's the other part of it, which leads to this. There's also this myth that I'll have all the time for myself being at home. Or on the other side of it, I'll have absolutely no time for myself. We'll handle the first part. Okay, I will have all the time for myself. Tee hee hee hee. Again, I know you guys are probably going, what? Yeah. And with this idea of I'll have all the time in the world for myself, that's with the thinking that goes back to kind of the 80s, 90s idea that, I'm just going to be the mom who's chilling on the couch, watching my stories, eating bonbons, and, somebody's taking care of everything else, which of course we know to not be true most of the time. Okay. And as a result, we can have this way of thinking. And I've had others who thought this of me, just, oh, well, I can call you because you're just at home. It's not like you're doing anything. It's just, okay. The thing is this: when you're moving from your career, from what you were doing work wise to being at home, you're changing your responsibility, you're shifting the roles that you're playing. Okay. So, just the same way that you were in your job and you had a description of what that job was, you had duties and tasks that you accomplished, there's a purpose for you being within that organization. The same thing applies to family. And this, I think, is one of the greatest travesties that we as a society, we as a culture, especially within westernized American culture, do with regards to motherhood, do with regards to the family, do with regards to parenting, is to think that somehow being a mom or being a parent or being at home with your family is a passive action, that it has no responsibilities, no job description, no purpose, that you're just kind of there, right? It is not a reactive state. choosing to be a stay-at-home mom is a proactive one. Choosing to be a stay-at-home mom, honestly, it has a whole collection of expectations should we choose to connect with it. That level of intention, that level of purpose, that level of discernment about why our role is valuable is what changes the trajectory of what happens with our families and what happens with our culture as a whole. The family is a foundational unit. You get that locked in and you treat that well, everything else flourishes. Little soapbox moment. It's one of my things, okay? And it's recognizing just how valuable that time is within that space. That honestly, if we recognize it that way, if it was, for example, I'm leaving a career within marketing, let's say, and I'm going off to become a psychologist. I'm going off to become a chef. I'm going off to become a healer. I'm going off to become all these different roles. That's exactly what a mom is doing. All those and more. That is exactly what a homemaker is doing. When a wife chooses to be at home, to be in a place to support her family, to support her husband, to be a place of a foundation from a spiritual standpoint, to be the one who is functioning as a watchwoman on the walls, to look out and to see what can be done to ensure that the home is a safe and harmonious and core foundational supported unit. That is what's happening. And a lot of times we can easily just completely miss that. Okay. So let's step off that soapbox a little bit. Okay. The other side of the coin, so it's kind of a two in one myth here, is that I will have no time for myself. So let's say you have children who are grown or who are grown, right? They're basically a few months old and up. And so you're already getting this sense of dread of, okay, when I leave having a career and being able to work away from home, and now I'm coming home, there will be no time for me because I will be so consumed with taking care of everybody else. I remember what my mom looked like, for example, or I remember what my aunt looks like, or I remember, or I think about that friend of mine that every time I see her, she looks crazy frantic and she talks about how she has no time for herself, but it's a joy. Okay, it might actually be a joy. That's a whole nother conversation. Okay. And so there may be that fear of if I move into this space, I'm basically just sacrificing myself. Choosing to be at home, choosing to transition is a sacrifice. That is true. What's awesome is that we get to choose to a certain degree what that sacrifice looks like. And that's part of what we talk about in the Smart Super Moms group. Okay. In Super Moms, where we're finding balance, it's recognizing that we could easily be in this place where we allow all of those roles and responsibilities to weigh us down and to feel so burdensome that we don't know how to function, that we become so quick to pour into everyone else's cup that we leave ourselves empty. And so that process of finding balance, of reclaiming our identity, all of that is super important because that's what allows us to be able to serve our family well. Okay, that's what allows us to be able to serve in our communities well. That's what allows us to just serve ourselves well. Okay, so in this group, that's part of what we talk about. It's part of the unpacking that we do to recognize that you get to choose what that role of motherhood looks like so that you're able to, again, live that out unapologetically. So you're more than welcome to click on the link and join us in there. I'd be happy to have you. And as always, if you're going, this is really helpful, and I'd love to be able to talk with you more about this one on one because this idea of transitioning is a little bit overwhelming, or you've made the transition and you're going, I don't know what the heck I'm doing. Been there, done that. I decided to recycle the t-shirt. I had to cut back on t-shirts, okay? But it's recognizing that you're not alone in this process, that it is one that you get to navigate, and I'm more than happy to help you with tools, with conversation to do just that. So, with that, let's see. I think there were some awesome comments here. So yes, absolutely. Glad you are in agreement. And I appreciate, yeah, it's such an important truth that we tend to neglect, that the family unit is just as important as any Fortune 500 company. And the moment we choose to recognize just how significant the family unit is, that's when things change so much. And it is also recognizing that there is a generational cycle connected to it as well. And that's its own whole conversation. So, oh my goodness, I'm well over time. I thank you for hanging out if you've watched thus far. And if this has been helpful to you, as always, feel free to share this video with a friend. Feel free to share it on Facebook, on YouTube. If you're in the group and you're watching this and you're new, welcome. If you've been with me for a while, love you, so grateful for you. Share it with a friend so that they too are empowered to know that they get to choose. We're going to navigate this well. All right, talk to you later. You are amazing.